Hey guys, it's Fifth Lauren, also known as 944. Don't forget Thorin's YouTube channel.
Right, this is going to be episode 68 of Counterpoints, and we're actually doing one a month now, the busy schedule. No, we actually might start doing it more regularly again, because to be fair, there is actually just a lot more opportunity nowadays. Our guest for this one, it's going to be ImAPet, as you might have known him in the past when he was the coach of CLG. OpTic briefly, we don't really talk about that one very much. NRG now, though. NRG, not bad. Team that's had like some top placings and stuff.
Yes,
1am Shanghai
good.
and all that jazz. So he also, by the way, just at the beginning of the episode, public service announcement, he would now like to be known as Chet only.
I believe the way that he's phrased it is Chet, formerly the artist formerly known as ImAPet.
Yeah. He doesn't want to be in any way tainted by his involvement with repeatedly having Dabs kicked from teams or FNS kicked from teams. So right now, and by the way, not to confuse anyone there, I know you're thinking, no, you're getting mistaken again, Thorin. That was Valens who had FNS kicked from Cloud9. No, the two of them combined. Like, as far as I can tell, it's some sort of an operation here. It's like, like one of those confidence movies where one guy pulls off one scab in one area, the other one's in another place. But together they run the whole operation. That's the key thing you have to understand about these guys.
Black market of roster changes directed by the North American coach.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing, right, Chet? I actually did not plan this episode. In fact, obviously, when I was starting to arrange this episode, it was before I even knew about the Stanislaw to NRG move. So this was not planned as an episode that would just be all about that. But the idea was, and I won't say who the other guest was going to be, we were going to have another coach from North America in, but for scheduling reasons, unfortunately, he wasn't available. So the plan generally for me was just... there's probably never been a better time than to do sort of like, let's assess where the NA scene is at the top, because obviously Team Liquid is literally ranked number one in the world. NRG, the squad, already was in an interesting position. We're kind of on the brink of maybe going to a higher level themselves and being an elite team. Then you have, I'm always interested to know nowadays, because the Brazilian teams play within the NA scene, what people's experience of them coming up with. You obviously have the Furious squad that's gotten so good all of a sudden. So I think there's plenty of things we could talk about, but we probably should touch a bit on the NRG thing, since we have you at our disposal and the move just happened. So, right, obviously, you don't have to reveal anything that's considered off the table or stuff that is private within how the organisation did things. But we haven't really heard much about this move except for the official post and then Daps himself giving a twit longer. So in Daps' twit longer, I joked about it on By the Numbers, but he did almost like go along with the narrative of the move, which is like, basically along the lines of like, it's, the team might be better with Stanislaw than me, or, we plateaued, or something like that, kind of a gist, which to be fair is probably what most people would have characterised NRG as. Like, as far as I can tell, Chet, the main issue on this move is just how confident people are that Stanislaw will be an upgrade, because I'm a big Daps supporter, but I also would agree he's never been past this level with a team before. The team with both lineups seemed like it had plateaued in terms of results. That you kind of knew realistically they'll lose close to this top team, but they'll beat this team just below them. The kind of range was probably reasonable. So I think the main issue is the confidence in Stanislaw being the guy who's going to take the team to the next level. Like, can you give us some insight? Like, what was the reasoning for that move? Because it's not like he's been tearing it up with complexity. He's been all right there, but he hasn't had any huge performances, I don't think, generally.
So our idea of getting Stanislaw, it was a pretty fast move, for context's sake. It was kind of like after we lost in ECS or whatever, we kind of just like made the move really quickly after that. We kind of were looking for someone, obviously, who is better in the fragging department, because Daps has kind of hit like a career low as of lately.
It's also his worst quality generally. I think most people would acknowledge he's not a very good fragger.
Yeah, but I would say like around this time of the year has been his absolute worst, and also like kind of attitude wise, and like didn't seem like the best fit for us, and some people are getting a bit tilted by it. So we kind of thought it was time to move on, because like you said, we were kind of plateauing in results. We're always getting semifinals, but we can never like get past the hurdle and getting like, to the final, getting those like big rounds or whatever. Obviously, it's not all on him. We're not blaming only him, but he has a big say in what we do. So that's kind of why we went towards Stanislaw, because I could say one of our weakest factors was splitting like sites. So like on train, for example, we would get a lot of map control. So I would say defaulting for the most part, Daps was pretty good at controlling the map. and helping us get map control and, setting us up to get like trade kills. But once we get to that point where, we have all that map control, it was kind of, we were kind of like clueless in a sense where, no one was like pitching ideas. And, towards that end part, Daps wasn't really like coordinating the split as much as most IGLs should. So that's kind of like the weakness we had with Daps. And we thought with Stanislaw, and we're hoping with more practice, obviously, that'll be the difference maker from what we've heard. At least that's how he likes to run things.
Okay. Do you think that, I mean, what I always try to stress whenever anyone discusses in-game leaders, even if it's the best, is that, like, that role I still think is way too broad. Like, one day, if Counter-Strike ever is a real sport akin to the NFL, it'll be like the NFL. You'll have a whole team of people. You'll have, like, someone who coordinates, like, CT setups, and you'll have someone who's, works on, like, there'll be a million aspects to it, because no in-game leader realistically is the best at all areas. In fact, you even see, like I'll give you an example. One of the in-game leaders I admire a lot is Carrigan. And one of the things I think he is amazing at is a mixture of like calling on the fly or calling very simple things that work. He just figures out what works in a match and does it. But you know what? I would absolutely say as well, as somebody who's watched his whole career, he clearly has a big problem doing exactly that when it's like crunch time moments. When you have to like, it's not just like a free game where you just make use of what you have. It's like you have to win these next 2 out of 4 rounds to win the game or something. He's had problems in that regard, So that doesn't mean he's bad in game leader. That means that's where his weakness is. There's another guy might be good at that, but wouldn't be able to get in a position to make it happen because he's not as good at the other areas of the game. It's not as simple as like bad in-game leaders, good in-game leaders. But did Daps have issues in that regard? Because I have to say, when I think of this NRG lineup, the one with Tarek in, man alive, you guys lost a lot of close games. Like, there was a lot that were like, the 16-14 losses, overtime losses, third map losses. It's like you were clearly in position at times to win. Did his skill set, his personality not fit that type of thing? What do you think?
I would definitely say, like I said, because of the fragging side of his gameplay, CT sides are definitely a lot weaker for us. Like, if you look at a lot of our games, we kind of had like really big T halves, and then we kind of falter on CT sides. And it's because Daps can get like that 1-2 kills that he should get. Not saying he's supposed to make like these big star player rounds, but like these 1 or 2 kills he should get. Then if we didn't get those, then it makes the round a lot harder for like the rest of the team. So that's one thing that people are considering a lot, because it's a lot harder to play like sites together if you think the other person, if you like have less confidence in the person you're playing with. So people are starting to lose faith in Daps pretty much, and that's like a big factor of why we're gonna change him.
What is it now? You have Stanislaw coming in. I mean, what did you see in Stanislaw that made you, was it something where you said, oh, like, we really want Stanislaw and look, he's now available? Or was it just like, oh, he's available, we'll pick him up? Because Stanislaw, to me, like, we anointed him at one point like one of the best in-game leaders in North America, but that was mostly just because there were no other North America or in-game leaders in North America doing anything of note. It was kind of like he was the best by default right after OpTic. Like, what is it about him? Did you just want an in-game leader who had a little bit more skill, or do you like the way he wants to play the game, or what exactly was it?
Yeah, so me and Tarek have experience with him in the past.
Right.
So we kind of know how he likes to call. And from what I remembered, he was really good at helping us set up the splits. And that's something, like I said before, we were really struggling with. And Tarek works really well with him because Tarek's like another mid-rounding kind of guy who helps the IGL. And with Daps and Tarek, it wasn't really working out that much because their styles were completely different. Daps was more like a faster, more loose style, and then Tarek was looking more towards like a slower style. And there's too much conflict there. And with Stanislaw and Tarek, I know it'll work a lot better because also they play like the similar style, they play slower. They know how to like set those splits better. So that way, opposite sides of the map, we'll have like Stan on one side, Tarek on another side. It's a lot easier to coordinate than having 2 people conflicting all the time. And then we'll be like lost on one side of the map.
What was it like in terms of like, one of the last questions I have along these lines is like, what was the personality match like with Daps in the team? Because one of the areas I often speculated was maybe why this NRG team was one of his best teams is that he obviously had so many players who'd never been to the top before. Like, they didn't have like, preformed ego, or they actually generally, most of them, I'm going to guess you probably agree, are pretty quiet guys. They're not really people who seem like they're argumentative or it's like compared to most of the NA teams, I'd have to say it seems like one of the most chill teams. Like people who are pretty laid back. Was Daps a good fit for that?
Yeah, everyone on our team is pretty quiet. People are starting to talk a little bit more now just because we kind of are enforcing people to give their opinions and try to be more communicative in the rounds. So that's like something that's been worked on heavily. But yeah, I think for Daps, it was good because everyone really respected him and, they did whatever he said. And there's no like personality conflict. So it was just like all about gameplay and just setting up the team and like setting up Cirque and Breezy to, get the frags that they need. So there's no one telling him how to IGL. He was just like doing his thing, and I think he was really comfortable. But then, as we got sort of towards like a topper, like more top level, and then we picked up Tarek, obviously like, Tarek's gonna have his what he wants to say, and we're all gonna like, since we're all being more communicative, we're all gonna like say more things. And then I think towards the end, he didn't really get to do everything that he wanted, so put him in a more uncomfortable spot probably.
Here's the thing. I ain't even going to hit on Tarek. Like, Tarek just lives in a different world than the rest of us. Like, you have to realise he's been in teams that have obviously been the champion of the events, that have been to the finals a bunch of times. So for him, just making semis isn't that cool. I get that. Like, I can see why for him there'd be like an urgency. Like, let's try and make a gamble that can make us potentially number one. But it does seem like no matter which way you cut it, he was clearly an instrumental part in this move, right?
I mean, I think him introducing his style of play definitely sped things up a bit, because then everyone else kind of realized, like, yeah, if we played this way, it'd be more consistent style than the style we were doing last year, where we're always aggressive and like always getting in people's faces. Because the style we did last year is pretty inconsistent, and it showed in our results, like we lost in Stockholm and such. So yeah, it's just like, as soon as like I was also a part of it. Like everyone was pretty much a part of it when we were trying to remove Daps. Even Breezy, who doesn't say much, kind of like
too Breezy.
Of course.
I mean, he doesn't say that much, but if he says something, like there's a big issue going on. So
Jesus Christ,
I know he's like the last guy who casts the ball Moses, and he just throws the black ball into the box.
And he's fucking Ollie. They just the group parts, and it's Breezy stepping up with a knife to just jack him right there.
For NRG, Daps. For NRG. But then obviously in this analogy, Daps then pulls out his own blade and stabs himself like, yeah, you're right, guys, for NRG.
He's like, you make a good argument.
Exactly, yeah.
I can't really say it's just her, because
sure. No. I'm just saying, like, to me, if you look at the makeup of the personalities within the team, I'm sure that people had to agree it was a group decision, and this is what generally people want. But someone has to be the guy who is the person, the driving force, the guy with the idea, the guy who thinks this is the right way to do things that then people agree or disagree with. That's fine. And if you just look at their histories, it'd be a bit coincidental if he had nothing to do with it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you look that way.
Can we rewind a bit? Can we go back to when you guys decided to bring in Tarek for Fugly? Like, for me, that kind of felt like, I don't want to say I don't want to call it like a downfall, but that kind of felt like the beginning of like the struggles that you guys would face. And yeah, you guys had some pretty good results and some decent runs with Tarek in there, but when you lose Fugly and you bring in Tarek, you obviously gain some in terms of, impact, in terms of fragging, but you also lose some things in terms of like fundamental, like smart player, just good positioning and everything. What did you notice the most when Fugly left that you guys were lacking that he brought to the table?
When Fugly was removed, we definitely noticed that the biggest difference was Fugly was like more of a stationary player. He didn't like make plays. He was like a hard lurker. He didn't like move that much on the map, so you always knew like he's going to be there and he's just going to be holding his position and holding that map control. Whereas with Tarek, he's kind of more like moving around, moving the pieces around. He doesn't lurk as much. He's going to be going in like first, second, and he's not maybe going to hold the space, but he's going to make like those plays that are like the difference maker for big games. So yeah, I guess those are the biggest differences.
I mean, was that a quality that you felt like you guys missed, like having someone who is just you could rely on to have this part of the map control?
Yeah, so I feel like we needed to move away from that, just because a lot of the people in our team weren't really playmakers. So we were looking for a playmaker and someone who was more communicative, because Fugly was really good at holding map control, but his communication wasn't the best. And he might just be holding map control, but he may not say like what the best thing to do is in his part of the map. And we were looking more towards someone who already had like good communication and like was already like, I guess developed already, because we were at the stage where like we couldn't really wait too much longer. We needed to show results, and Tarek was like the best option for that.
Obviously, in the circumstances you're in now, you can't be particularly critical of Stanislaw. He's just joined your team. It's obviously something that you're hoping will work out. So I'll ask this question very carefully, but I want to get your insight on it, which is, what do you think has held Stanislaw back? Because as Moses referred to earlier, if you go back to that time when he left OpTic, his stock was so high, it was insane. I remember even telling some of the owners I know, like, pencil this guy in, in the future, if you're looking for a leader, like, see when his contract ends, just keep him in your mind, because, if you saw what he just did at OpTic, obviously it seems like the sky's the limit, because crucially, not only was the team actually pretty decent tactically, a very, very good placing team, but it added to it the fact that everyone knows about him. He's a very good fragger for an in-game leader. So I even said, like, Sky looks like the complete package. And when I first heard he was going to that Team Liquid squad, I would have imagined they'd have done things that they did now. I thought, this could be fucking amazing. Look at the players they have, OllieJ, all the rest of them. I think this is before they had Twists. I think they got him a little bit after that. But you would have thought amazing things possible. But obviously the Team Liquid period was pretty underwhelming. Then his period in OpTic, when he went back to the second time, basically didn't even happen. That was like very, very brief. And then you had this complexity period where, they had like the one big result. They made top 8 of the major. Fair play, that's a pretty good result. But aside from that, there weren't really that many crazy results. And actually, I think part of where kind of his stock had dropped a lot was he didn't seem like an in-game leader. Actually, funnily enough, I'd say Daps is one of these guys who can take a group of like people who haven't made it yet and then elevate them to that level. So what do you think's held Stanislaw back? Like, why didn't he kind of like deliver on the promise we saw a few years back? What is there something within the scene of how people see him, or what the perception is about him, or something?
Yeah, I'm not here to make excuses about it, but I'll just say my piece on each of those eras that he had. For like Team Liquid, I'm not too sure exactly what happened there, but as for OpTic and Complexity, I was with them in OpTic during that time, so I can kind of tell you what kind of happened there. Well, obviously, people know from that tweet longer that Peter made, or Stanislaw made, that there was like an unhealthy relationship between us and the Danish guys.
Sure.
So that realistically wasn't going to work out after like a month. Like, the organization was kind of going against us. There's like that GM we had who's kind of like working against us as well, and everything
also
was just
Danish.
Like, everything
doesn't help.
Everything was like kind of working against us. It was really hard to like focus on the game, because none of us knew if we were going to get cut or something.
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess in that part of OpTic, I wouldn't really like consider that, just because that was just a giant mess, and I'm glad that they ended up going to Complexity, because I felt like that went a lot better for them. And then as for the Complexity era, I think it went really well. As far as I know, when they started going a bit down is when they started making a bunch of roster changes, and I heard the coach and Stan didn't really like have the same philosophies. So I think that's a big problem to have. If the coach and the IGL don't have the same philosophies on how to play the game, then you're not really going to get anywhere. It's kind of like how I said Tarek and Daps don't have the same philosophies, then you can't really get anywhere, and you're always going to have conflict. And it's good to have like discussions and arguments and to progress that way. But if it's always happening and you can never like get down to one thing, then it's impossible to progress. So I think in Complexity, all those arguments, and eventually Ramo got cut. They couldn't get a new coach, and Ricky had like his million visa problems. That team was just like doomed to fail after.
Sure. Okay. Go on.
You said you guys are going to start working on like changing your style, like you're going to slow things down. You mentioned earlier with Stanislaw now at the helm. Do you have confidence that Stanislaw can actually create like a new way to play the game for your team? Like, do you have confidence as an in-game leader? Daps coming in and, we've seen him a couple times now build teams up to a certain point. And, Stanislaw took over from the previous OpTic and was able to win E-League. Now he's taking over from Daps's work here out of position. But if you're going to implement a whole new style, is Stanislaw the kind of in-game leader who can actually, from scraps, essentially, slow this team down and change the style of play?
Yeah, so funny enough, Daps did lay like a good foundation. So like I said, Daps was pretty good at helping us get map control. So like we're all familiar and we know how to easily get map control on any part of the map. Now it's going to come down to our IGL and Tarek to slowly help us coordinate the splits, and that's gonna help us in our slow style because now once we get map control, we're not just gonna be sitting there. We're gonna actually like do something and like you use our utility correctly instead of just like sitting around doing nothing. So that's what we're gonna be practicing the most. Obviously, we'll still have our fast style and like we're able to change it up, but slow style is definitely something we need to work on the most if we're looking for like consistent results.
Okay. Right, so a more general NRG related question now, move aside from all the Stanislaw part and the whole thing with DApps. The question I actually had for you was, when I was making my video about this move, and I was trying to think through, because obviously, like, there's going to be many factors that contribute to why the team had plateaued and why you hadn't made any big finals recently and you haven't won any big titles recently. And one of the things I actually noticed just offhand while I was looking across the team is at the moment, if you go and look at all the best teams in like the top 10 of whatever the HLTV.org ranking, etc., pretty much all the teams have at least one player who would be considered like top 10 player in the world, superstar player, you know, like obviously even like Vitality, who's just come up as Ziwu. Pretty much every team has one of those players. I mean, even Renegades, actually, if you go look at JKS's stats, people would probably be amazed by actually, he's a very different player than the one who was the last few years. So if I looked at NRG, your team seemed like one of the few that didn't really have that. Like you had a very good team by committee, like especially once you got Tarek as well, really nice skill level across the board. Is there a player that should be on course for that? Should there be a guy from NRG who should end up on, you know, top X lists at the end of the year? Is there a guy you think's going to develop into that? Because you got an interesting bunch of people, but it could go many different ways. So what's your take from inside the team? Who do you think that guy should be?
I think that guy should be Breezy. He's definitely, I feel like he's one of the most talented players. And if we were ever to get poached by like Liquid or something, I'm not saying that would happen, but if we were ever to, I feel like Breezy would be like a prime candidate for Liquid for sure. I feel like he plays the game really well, like pretty smart positioning. He gets crazy multi-kills all the time if you see our games. I feel like this guy, his spray control is like pretty insane, and you don't see that from like a lot of players. It's kind of like Nico, like spray control. So I'll definitely look out for him in like a top 10 list for sure.
Say it's like a Hiko spray control?
No, like a Nico.
Oh,
Nico
Nico.
from FaZe.
I was like, whoa.
I mean, Hiko had pretty good spray control.
Listen,
that was about 4 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're all right on that one. Yeah, that would be an interesting rollback.
How did all the young guys take? How did like guys like Cirque and Ethan and Breeze? How did they take like that string of like really rough results? Like you guys have probably been the second best team in North America since I guess Cloud9 basically imploded. So for about a year.
Oh, a year ago,
so. Yeah. What was it like when you guys have had so much promise? You know, 2018, you guys got to that final at Star Ladder. You had some really good finishes after initial struggle on LAN, and then you know to start out this year, you had like the disaster at the major, getting knocked out by Complexity, not being able to make it into the playoffs. How do all the young guys like mentally take that? Was that like a hard blow to recover from? Were they like very frustrated when you started having some poor results, or was it kind of like, oh, back to work, let's like refocus? Or was it like really frustrating and kind of upsetting to some of the young guys?
I think for us, it's more like back to work and we get refocused pretty easily. We don't really like get tilted or get upset too much because I guess we're all like, quiet guys and we don't get frustrated too much. And then if anyone gets frustrated, I usually end up talking to them privately to see how they're feeling. And then we kind of go from there. No one really gets like too worked up about a big loss. Obviously, you're going to feel shitty the day of, but usually the next day we'll end up reviewing and people will point out the mistakes. And, you know, we kind of bounce back pretty fast and we'll start practicing like pretty much right away.
Now that DApps is gone, who's going to be giving the interviews? Because you guys do have like three.
It's not going to be Stanislaw, I tell you that. it's not going to be Stanislaw.
That's a good point. Literally, you have Tarek. There's like 4 people on that team that just do not want to give interviews. I don't think I've ever seen Ethan step in front of the mic.
I think Ethan has. I would say in the order of like people who most likely to least is probably Tarek, me, Ethan, Breezy, Cirque, and maybe Peter. I'm not really sure how Stan takes interviews.
Oh, by the way, actually, that does remind me of one last thing I should ask about the DApp situation, which is, were the 2 majors a factor in it? Like, not qualifying for the Faceit one, which obviously was ridiculous because, you know, like that minor was pretty wide open, and obviously there was double a limb when you get to the playoffs. So, like, that was, I even remember thinking, like, that is an egregious, like, failure.
Yeah.
And then obviously this next one, you're at the major, but then didn't do anything at it. And even though those are only 2 results, like, first of all, I know for pro players, the major is a big deal. Like, that famously is basically what what killed existence's career. It's not that people thought he was a bad in-game leader. It's that after he'd failed enough majors, they thought he had like a curse, literally. And people were just like, I just don't want to risk, the World Championship play with this guy. And then also there's the factor that in this scenario, the expectation was that your team probably should have been top 8 at both those majors. Never mind, just at them. Like, this isn't like the old days of being in OpTic or whatever when those teams were just also runs. You were in some of the best teams in the world. So did that actually play much of a role?
I think the first major, not so much, because after that first major, we ended up winning 2 events, and then we made some decent results. Like, we think we made a final, and we eliminated Team Liquid at ECS or something, making top 4 there as well. So I think the first major didn't matter as much just because we ended up bouncing back and having a lot better results. I think it's the second major that really affected us the most because we knew we were kind of we felt really prepared during that major. We had a sick boot camp, probably the best boot camp we ever had. And we were feeling really prepared on all the maps. And then to come really flat like that after going 3-0 in both stages beforehand felt really horrible for us. And then to make the change after the major, getting Tarek and then still kind of being at the same level kind of made us realize we're probably not going to really go further. We kind of plateaued, and that kind of spurred the changes.
Okay. Right. If we move over a bit then, talk about some of the other teams. Right. Let's just start at the top. Team Liquid is the ranked number 1 team in the world. And by the way, I have to say, all that stuff people were doing of but let's wait and see how Astralis are. Well, we don't have to do that anymore. So that part's solved. That part's out the window. We'll see if they come back strong. But at the moment, I think realistically, if you look at it, with the months that they've had off and the months of not that great results for Astralis has to climb back as well, just like any other team does, If you drop off being number 1, you have to earn it back again. You have to. At the moment, my problem is, I also do want to see Team Liquid beat Astralis. Obviously, I would like to know that they'd have completed that progression just for themselves. But right now, they're not even playing the Astralis if they play them. That was from 6 months ago, really. So I personally don't think that's the biggest priority of all, because Astralis has to meet them first,
It's wild. I want to back up Astralis and I want to fight for them, but They're not going to any events. They got to beat me halfway. I want to help.
That's true. I can't remember the last time Astralis was on the server with us.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, the question is this, right? In light of the fact Team Liquid is number 1 on paper, they've won the most events of anyone, they've had some great placings. Basically, the major was the only bad placing they've had this year. Can Team Liquid actually be a real world number 1? Do you think they can not just now because of the timing and Astralis not attending the events? Can they be number 1 in the next few months? Can they win the next win the major even? Things that should have been possible before, but they weren't the number 1 candidate for it. What do you think, Chet?
I think they can be number 1 for sure. They are right now, but all their players play pretty well. I think the only thing they need to worry about is their map pool, because I still think it's not the best, because they're going to have to worry about Vertigo and Train. So they're going to have to pick one of the 2 and get really good at one of them. And I think they're focusing for Vertigo, which I think is going to be their downfall, because that map's way too random. It's way a lot of underdogs are going to try to get good at it and get an edge on them. So I think that's going to bite them in the butt eventually. So I think they should go for Train, but that's on them. And then as for Nuke, I don't think it's a strong map for them at all, even if they're getting okay results in it right now. I think if they were to face an Astralis right now or Furia or whatever, even us, which I think we're pretty good on Nuke as well, I think they would struggle on Nuke versus us and all the teams I mentioned. So I think those 2 maps, or those 3 maps, are maps they really have to worry about. They want to be number 1.
What's your take, Moses?
I think the map pool is a really good point, just because for whatever reason, Liquid never strikes me as the best team in the world on any map. Obviously, you could maybe make that argument for Dust 2. I think their Dust 2 is super good. Their Overpass is really good, obviously.
Is pretty good as well, yeah.
Yeah, the problem is, I remember there was that phase where, Liquid was always picking Inferno, and I thought their Inferno was pretty shit. But, I don't see a map where you'd go to and you'd say with Liquid, it is one of, the double-edged swords where they're good on every map, good enough to, be able to take on world-level competition, the top 5 teams on every single map, but there's not one of them that you would reliably say, they're definitely going to be winning this one. We've seen them drop some pretty crazy matches on Dust 2, they're amazing at it, but they lost 16-6 to Fnatic on it. They lost 16-2 to Astralis on Overpass this year. They have all their maps have that one really weird outlier that's kind of scary. But I would say the biggest issue for me is I'm looking at the schedule that they're on this year, the pace that they're on. They're about to enter like a really, really rough schedule in terms of tournaments. And I'm wondering, especially if they start struggling early on, if they have like a bad tournament, they're not going to have a whole lot of time to like practice and kind of readjust strategies and readjust tactics and kind of readdress maps they're having issues on, which was their entire logic behind initially turning down that Cologne invite, which now we see them in the qualifier, and they just lost today to Spirit. So that can be dicey. Yeah. So, I mean, I believe that was online. They were playing from Malta, I think, or something crazy like that. So, I mean, take from that what you will. But, you know, I'm just worried about the schedule and if they start out weak, because I know I'm on a very similar schedule to them, and it is going to be a crazy amount of travel, and it is going to be a long time of not having like a home base. Like, you know, 5 events in a row, essentially. So that would be my biggest worry if they start out struggling for some reason. But other than that, obviously they have the ability to win the major. And I think once again, much like the last major, they're going to go into it as one of the favorites. And much again, like Katowice and like London, there's going to be plenty of people picking them. And they have shown a real inability to meet those expectations. So again, it's going to come down to where does the choke happen? You know, they've only won 2 events. It's not like they've hit that world beater status quite yet. It's not like they've hit that critical mass where, you know, you feel like they're going to win every game they play in. So I still think there's going to be a mental component, especially if they ever run into Astralis in the top 8 bracket.
By the way, Chet, since obviously everyone knows NRG have been specialists at Overpass for a long time, it's one of the main maps that the team came up on. When I said there, like, they're pretty good at Overpass, you looked like you wanted to say something. Were you going to like diss their Overpass or like give us some, well, they're not that good at this angle? Did you have something for us? Come on, don't.
Yeah, fuck them up, Chet. Fuck them up.
Come on.
We've always owned them on Overpass. Like, it took them like a while for them to beat us on Overpass. So I feel like their Overpass isn't too crazy good. They just kind of like have a lot of aimers and contact a lot, and they end up winning duels more than their strategies are good. So
isn't that your style? Are you mad that they took it from you?
I mean, a little bit, yeah, but definitely stole some stuff from us.
No, the thing is, though, that opens up a wider topic that I'd be interested to know what you think about, which is like that for me is also the change that happened in Team Liquid. Like this year's Team Liquid for me is way, like, you know, people used to call them mini Astralis. It's way less mini Astralis now. Like now they have all those aimers and they use them. Like they try to let people play make and go around, which is why I remember, I think it was Maniac or someone did a tweet. No, actually it was Ave, the old North coach, who had a tweet where he said something like he was very impressed with Team Liquid if they were in an even man situation, but he thought that they played like way too recklessly if they ever had like a numbers advantage, which if you think about it, if people are playing very individualistically is just the problem with that style. Like, you know, someone decides they're going to chase after a kill or they're going to push out when you've got an area secured. Like, generally, I think that's one of the things about Liquid is like the peak in theory is higher, but I think it's also a lot harder to be consistent when you have that style of team.
Yeah, I think they need to get better on like the slower pace. Like I think once they get good at playing slow, then things will be more consistent, better at trading themselves. Right now, if they like play like how you said, it's going to be a bit harder to get consistent results.
I actually think they're still really good in that phase. I think their problem is, you know, you ride that like really fine line of if you're going to go more individual, right? Like when do you rein it back in and how quickly can you rein it back in? Especially as a player, if you're in that mindset of it's like, all right, we're just going to get out in the open, take a fight and just body bag somebody. Then all of a sudden you're in a post plant situation and you have to like turn the dial down, right? Then you have to play it smart. And I think sometimes they get caught up in that kind of heat of the moment. They still do have like that one last heartbreak round where like no matter what, even if they're up in a big lead, there's that one like eco that they give away, or that one like round where they lose 3 players to a deagle or something along those lines that you're just like, all right, well, here we go again. Is it going to be a comeback for the other team, or are they just going to be able to close it out? So they do like always open up that one last door for their opponents in some of their games.
Sure.
Let's talk about you, chat. Let's talk about NRG.
What's up?
So you guys, I'm assuming by the way you talked about Liquid kind of focusing on Vertigo, you guys aren't going to touch that map yet.
We played with it a little bit, but it's definitely not a map we're picking. I think the map's way too.
That's an area though we can ask you about. Is like that's one of the things I noticed when you guys went to that first Star Series with Tarek, is that you literally played every single map. You played all 7 maps at that tournament, and all of them you had at worst close games on, like if not winning on most of the maps. So like normally that I have to say, normally teams don't do that. Like for example, the guy I referenced earlier, Carrigan, one of the reasons why he's generally been so good so quickly with teams is he does the opposite. He comes in and says, right, let's just focus on these three, get half decent at these, hope we get them in some tournaments, and then, you know, we'll expand beyond that. That way we have like competence now. Normally you don't go for, let's play all of the maps out of the gate. Was there a reason for that?
We just wanted to try something a little different. We wanted to manipulate every veto we could so we can have things in our favor and make teams get it not in their comfort zone. So we always ban like their best map, and then we get to play them on a map they're not so good at, and then we get to pick a map we're really good at. So yeah, we just wanted to try those tournaments to just make the other team more uncomfortable, and we felt really confident in all the maps we were picking most of the time.
That's usually the hard part about trying to do something like that, though. I know there's in-game leaders who wish they could do that, but, you know, you can't get your players to want to play a certain map, or they've lost too many scrims on it, so they're like, nah, let's play. And then it's always, you know, let's agree to just play them on Mirage or something that we all play. Like, is it tough to get the team on board with that approach?
It'll depend on which map we're picking. So, like, if we were going to pick, like, a Dust 2 at the time of what you're saying, then it was a little harder to convince people to pick it against, like, we played against North or something. It was a little bit harder to like leave it through or like pick it just because people were uncomfortable on it. But we kind of made like the final say, Daps and I, on like what to do. So we just like went for it.
By the way, Moses, in line with what we were talking about earlier, that is one area I'll definitely agree with you on the Team Liquid one, is that having Dust 2 be your best map, it's just not a great look, is it? Like I know you can't choose your best map.
It's never been great, hasn't it?
No, but it's still got that same problem where like put it this way, there's no team that's playing like tier 1 teams that's going to go on a 10-0 like Dust 2 streak. That I think even like the sick Astralis would still lose one. I would guess like every 5 or 6 games, because you can't dominate the map in the same way, you know. I don't think it's possible.
There's too many different styles that are really effective on Dust 2 to like really be able to become a dominant team on it. Even like in the years past when Dust, you know, the old Dust 2 was still in the pool, people who were like the best team in the world on Dust 2 were like, yeah, this is kind of worthless for us to be this good on this map. It's just.
Yeah, I think a big part of having like a era like Astralis had is they were really dominant on Nuke and Inferno, and for Liquid to have their era, they're gonna have to have a map that they're really dominant on. And if you're gonna be dominant on Dust 2 and maybe Overpass, like Dust 2 is just too random. And Overpass, I guess like you could slide that as a map to be part of the era because it's a lot teamwork based, but you're gonna need more than just Overpass, because if someone just permabans it, then you're right back to where you started, where you
why
might
do you
just,
think
Dust 2.
I know this is going to be a lot of guesswork and assumptions on your part, but why do you think they've never like enjoyed Train? Like, why is it that they've never wanted to get good on that map? They seem to have like they have extremely versatile players, extremely skilled players, and they've gotten very good tactically on every map. Train seems like it wouldn't be necessarily that difficult to a map to introduce. I mean, they played it in the past. Everyone's obviously played it a shit ton at this point. Like, what is it about that team that they just don't like Train?
I guess.
Like, do you know? Have you played it? Have you practiced any scrims against them on it or anything?
I mean, I've talked to NAF about it, so I have like a little bit insight. You know, they just don't have like a dedicated operator, so it's a lot harder to, you know, once you have like a really operator that's really comfortable on Train, it's a lot easier to get like T mid as a CT, or vice versa. It's a lot easier to go for like the opening pick as a T. And if they're not comfortable doing that, then the map gets a lot harder. You're not going to get as many T runs if you don't have like an operator that's super comfortable. So that's going to limit you a lot. And also the inner site's really hard, and it's really hard to retake as well. So if you don't have a player that's really comfortable playing inner, then you're just not going to be able to win Train. It's going to be really hard to have a good CD side. And those are things that they don't have and things that they're comfortable with. So I think that's why they're not really going for it.
Okay. The thing I do love about Team Liquid, though, is like it's so perfect that they're in position to potentially be like the team of the year, be number one, and all that stuff that sure was technically possible last year. It's just Astralis was in their way, and they obviously a team for the ages, you know. But the thing that I find so cool about Team Liquid at the moment is you can legitimately look at this roster and say like they might have the most skilled team in the whole world. They might have the best collection of players in the world. Like that's what's crazy. You could never say that in the past for any NA team, even like. I think the closest probably is maybe like the old OpTic team or something. And even then, that was more like they were still on the come up, you know. Some of those players weren't fully proven. But you look at the depth of the player base in this Team Liquid, so it's amazing. It's a team worthy of potentially being number one, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think you can argue against their number one position at the moment. It still feels a little bit hollow just because of the Astralis effect. But I mean, like I put out that tweet, the next step for them, and it's the thing that no NA team has been able to do, because every time an NA team, shout out to Chet, has any kind of success, they just implode immediately afterwards. Your OpTic being one of them, Cloud9 being the next one. So that was fun. But now with Liquid, it's like this is the first team that you can look at from NA and actually say they have a chance to establish an era now. You know, before we were looking for an NA team to win an event. OpTic did that with E-League Season 2. And then we're looking for an NA team to win a major. Cloud9 does that. And now we have Team Liquid, who's gotten number one the first time an NA team has taken that spot. And they have a chance to build an era. So I think that's a pretty cool thing to have going on in North America. And then even better, if you go one step further, your NRG team has it its say about a skill on it as well. Like this could be another lineup where you look at it and you say, even against European squads, there's probably more skill on this NRG team than a lot of like the best European teams have. Even
for
like
sure.
That's a ridiculous amount of individual ability that you have to work with.
I'll say the one thing about we outline a lot of weaknesses Liquid has, but they also have like a lot of strengths. Like at any point, even if you do like the correct play, like us playing them, even if we do like the exact right thing, their player could just get like a 3K or like a 4K and we just lose the round.
Of course.
Like all their players could do that.
That's the heartbreak of Counter-Strike though, isn't it? Where you're just like, I just did everything wrong and he still reamed me out with a P250. So, well, that's
yeah, and all their players can do it, which is like not likely in like all these teams. Like all 5 Liquid players can just straight up just own you even if you do everything correct.
Sure.
Yeah, but you have that too.
Yeah, we do have that too.
Do some weird shit.
Yep, he for sure has.
No, that's also another thing that's crazy. That's why it isn't just Team Liquid. Like, to be fair, I think part of what people didn't realize in NA, which it's so obvious when you think about it now, is if there's no talent right now, then just wait a few years, because the people who are now 15, so in the case like an Obo type person, they will be 18 in 3 years. So that they will be ready to be the next pro. And what we've seen is, the generation that was the iBuy Power Ban cut out the legs of some of that generation, but that generation was good and they were contending. But this next generation, which is the NAFs and the Twists and these sorts of players, that's the fucking golden generation right now, because it also makes up the players in the NRG squad as well. And if you look at the NRG squad's talent, this could be a top 5 team in the world, of course. Like, this could really be a world in which NA is the only region with 2 teams in the top 5. I mean, assuming we're not counting Europe as a region in that sense, because, like, I mean, we all know the Danish scenes can't get a second team at the moment. They've had a lot of problems with that. Like, realistically, this can be the NA era.
You'd obviously love to see that. I think that'd be great. Yeah, no reason there can't be, to be completely honest with you. I think the big thing is we need to. I think a lot of it depends on, I think, Stanislaw as an in-game leader. I think this version of NRG is going to be a big way to dictate how well that can go, because all of a sudden, if he can prove that he can be an in-game leader and stay in a team and get a team to the top rankings, then all of a sudden, because remember, like you talk about the legs getting cut off from generations, what really destroyed the NA and CSGO was the fact that we had none of our previous stars from like bygone eras still playing. You know, in Europe, you guys had, the guys coming from Source that could pass on knowledge. You had the Virtus Pros, the old guard. You have the NIP and Fnatic, or mostly the NIP guys. And all those can like pass on some kind of knowledge as they split up and go their different ways onto different teams. We haven't had that. So I think Stanislaw is like a big part of that puzzle, considering he's had success in the years past.
By the way, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what Moses was saying, NA doesn't have too many like veteran leaders, and definitely need to see how it goes with Stan for sure. If we end up doing really well at like our first event, which is going to be Cologne, that'll be fantastic. But obviously, I think for us, if you're going to look at us, we're definitely eyeing for like to see how we do at the major, because that's when we'll probably have the most practice. They're going to look at our results.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. By the way, along those lines, so obviously it was only one tournament that we saw this Obo guy playing Complexity, and the team itself was never going to like win the tournament. So they did pretty well in light of the context of the event, obviously having a pretty nice win over a top team in MIBR, right? Was this guy actually someone that people were looking out for in the NA scene? I mean, he is only 15 right now. Was he someone that people had like, penciled in as like he could be the next? I mean, I guess the analogy now would be like Twists would be the successful example, or an Ethan, whoever you might want to pick, Was he already known within the community?
Yeah, people are talking about him a lot, especially from like FPL and just talking with him. I remember I talked with him a little bit before he joined Complexity, and I was really impressed with his attitude. Out of all the young people I've talked to in NA, he seemed the most like level-headed and like determined to win. which was refreshing to hear for once instead of like a big troll like some other people. So I definitely have like a lot of respect for him, and I think with the right leadership, he'll just get a lot better. And yeah, I think he'd be like the next Twist for sure.
You know, though, that's actually what you said there about, like, you know, he wasn't too trolley, etc. I do actually think that's a significant factor that's held, like, the NA scene back. Because I know, by the way, that's a factor in the UK scene that has always been really, really bad, is that the only people who were at the top in the UK scene all had, like, a dreadful attitude where it was just sort of like, you know, I mean, I guess the analogy would be, like, all they had was their own status as like, I'm at the top of the UK scene, which obviously is nothing internationally. And so rather than think like, well, we're all shit and we all need to improve and we all need to fix things, their whole thing would be like, it's like being the hardest guy in prison. It's like, that's all you've got. So instead they would, if someone else comes in, they would be shit talking them, and then they would spread on a terrible attitude to all the newer players, and all the newer players would all be obnoxious and talk shit and make everyone hate them. And as a result, like, you see what an absolute dire scene the UK scene is. So I always felt like in the NA, there's a similar problem where, like, once people are trying to break out of that, like, talent group where, you know, you show you've got some skills, you're in the ESEA, you may be in, like, the main and just above level, is people don't realise at that level how much, like, playing the politics game poorly will just fuck your whole career. Like, you can either be fast-tracked right to the top off your skill, or all your personality can hold back any amount of skill you've got. Like, everyone will say you're a cheater, or you're a fucking arsehole, or you screwed a team over by leaving them or whatever. Like, that stuff, people don't realise how like detrimental that can be to an otherwise blossoming career, I feel.
Yeah, you can see you can see with the Smoothie, like, Smoothie didn't like give the best impression to people, and now he's kind of been on the bench for a while, so maybe he's messed up some politics over there. You know?
Oh, of course, mate. If he'd have just done everything he did in game, but he just wasn't a guy who tweeted and no one really knew his personality, think about, the world would be his oyster. He speaks fucking English. Like, there's loads of international teams he could play for, and at the moment, yeah, you're right, he's just stuck on a bench. So I feel like some of that is still an issue in the NA scene, because I know that, like, a lot of the problems from the NA scene were people themselves holding others down, or not wanting to give someone a chance, or, you know, unfortunately they'd had some incident with someone personally, and so they wouldn't consider them for a team. And it's like, I get why on a day-to-day basis you would have these concerns, but like, if you look at the scene as a bigger thing, you've got to make use of your talents, and you've got to pick out the right people, and you've got to give them their shot early if you want to blood them to the field and all that good stuff, you know.
It's one of those things, you know, because I did so many interviews and content based off this premise that, you know, the NA scene was toxic, and it was back in the day. It just takes like generational change. I think the biggest thing you notice is, like, look at the two top teams in North America right now. You know, it's Liquid and it's NRG, and none of their guys are known for like tweeting crazy shit or going in interviews and, you know, being cocky and fucking, you
a lot of quiet guys, actually.
The craziest thing about like the toxic communities is it actually is like the next level down. It's like the advanced, or like the semi-pro, or like, you know, made when there was invite. They're the ones that are the most cocky and the most toxic about it. And it's always wild. They're the people who have accomplished the least.
Well, I'll give you the analogy, Moses. We know this from our world, right? It's not a joke. When people in the tier one of being commentators and analysts and hosts, when those people all tweet, it sounds like a big like hippie love fest, like, oh, missed this guy, love this guy, when's this next guy going to be at an event? They're actually not lying. Those people are friends, and we've all been through the fire. But you know what? If you go down one level to the people just below that, you will hear a level of shit talking and like diva behavior that will blow your mind. Like, the amount of them who were just like, what's mad is this is why it's a good analogy. It's not even that they don't all like each other. Some of them will even shit talk their friend when their friend's not there, because they think, like, you know, like in this case, they think that they're getting an in with me if they tell some shit about some other person, you know. And I almost want to take these people to one side and go like, you know, it just makes me think less of both of you, that you're shit talking someone else you work with that, like, I don't really know yet. Like, why are you turning him, why me against him or whatever? Like, and that really is, I feel like, how it went in the scene as well. Like, because the problem is, right, I'll give you the analogy. Say you were OllieJ in Team Liquid right now. You're not going to get very much experience playing a guy who's, like you're saying, at the advanced level, or like just below the invite level. You probably never play that guy. You probably never even play in the SEA with him, maybe occasionally. So you will yourself only hear about him through other people. And that's the whole problem people don't realize, is like the word of mouth, I think, is what kills you if you have any of those like negative parts associated with your personality.
Yeah, I think a lot of younger players these days aren't humble enough, and they might win like a Philadelphia, and that'll be like all they'll brag about for like the next like 6 months or something. And then it's just ridiculous. Like at least make it to like pro league, show your worth, and then it'll like spread around. But if you're just gonna talk shit because you won like a local LAN or something, it's kind of outrageous.
Well, let's touch on this because it's kind of, it's different topic, but in the same general area. Is one thing that you and Daps, and I guess especially Daps was kind of a little bit under the radar, but he was very, very good at scouting a lot of young talent. Like he was the guy who kind of discovered Mixwell back when. He was the guy who decided to bring over Cirque as well. What are you guys going to be missing anything in that department? I mean, obviously you don't plan on having roster changes, but obviously being able to scout talent is a big piece of the puzzle that might be missing. If he was good at finding hidden talents, maybe he's good at, finding ways to exploit talent in a game, like an opponent that you have coming up. Is there anything that you're missing in that department?
I think Daps was good at helping me figure out patterns when we were watching opponents. Because sometimes he would see something that I would miss, and then it's something that we could use in our matches. I'm not sure how it is with Snazore yet, because we haven't really done anything like that. So maybe we are going to miss that pattern recognition, but maybe Stan brings something different. I'm not too sure yet.
I mean, the obvious joke is just ask Daps to do it still. He'll probably still fucking do it. He's too nice a guy, isn't he?
Oh my God.
Sadly he is. That's the problem. You go, oh, well, I'm not really in the team. No, but it'd really help if you would do it, though. Oh, all right, then. I could.
Daps, we'd like to,
by the way, could we have it done by Monday?
I'd like to bring you back as the assistant to the head coach.
Exactly. Yeah. There we go.
I could never see that happening, but maybe.
Okay, fair enough. Right, what about this then? So as I alluded to before, the reason I'm always interested as well to know the opinion of people in the NA scene is because there is that weird scenario where all the teams that come up from South America pretty much come up by playing in the NA scene. That becomes the new place that they practice, etc. Is the Furia team out there practicing in that scenario?
What do you mean exactly?
Do they play in the NA scene? Are they part of the scrims, etc.?
Oh yeah, they are for sure.
Had you actually seen them before their rise recently? Like, were they actually in the mix with you guys in scrims and stuff?
Yeah, we were scrimming them before, and we actually took a lot of their like strats and stuff. Like,
what do you think of their overall style, by the way? Like that style, because the problem is, I notice at the moment that's the big divide. Like everyone acknowledges the results are good, but I think people are divided. Like half the people think they're kind of too gimmicky, and it's like like a Vega Squadron type scenario where people will figure it out and it won't be as effective, or the other option is they've innovated a new style of Counter-Strike. Like that seems like a very extreme way to play. What do you think?
It's really weird because we play them and I feel like we know everything they do because we just give them more respect and we like research them more than other teams. But I'm not really too sure because in my opinion, I felt like Astralis shouldn't have lost to them on Nuke the second time around because they kind of just did the same thing from what I saw again. They just kind of like they executed on the upper site and they went through door heavy and stuff like that. Maybe just Astralis didn't respect them enough. I feel like once teams just like do their research, they'll kind of understand how Furia plays. They're aggressive. They make like solo plays. Like Art's a crazy guy. He just like runs outside by himself. Yeah. I mean, I feel like they're a good team. It's just, I feel like you could just figure them out pretty easily once you like give them enough respect and do your homework on them.
I find them to be insanely overrated at the moment. Like crazy levels of overrated. And that's not to say I think they're a bad team. I think they obviously have some very skilled players, and they have a couple like cool gimmicky strategies that I really enjoyed watching. But I know when I was watching them, I think their post plants are pretty trash, I guess is the best way to put it. I think they get they don't seem as organized and as disciplined in post plant situations. I think they get a little over peaky at times and kind of give up some post plants that they shouldn't, which worries me. And then I think this style of play, while it's obviously exciting and fun to watch and it's obviously impactful, I feel like we've seen it a number of times in the history of CSGO, teams that come out like this with insane levels of individual talent. But this is like more of a flash in the pan. This is like you're going to have, a good month or two, and then you're going to have to go back to the drawing boards because everyone is going to start realizing, they're going to come into it. They're like, oh, we know this team is crazy. We know we need to have gun out. We know we don't necessarily need to play cerebral. Like, just make sure you're ready for anyone to come around the corner and for any trade attempt to come out. And I think they're going to go through this stretch coming up here, which sucks because it's going to be right before the major, where I think they're going to get beat. by pretty much all these teams that they've kind of shocked early on. And then they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. And then we'll see if they can recover from that and become a good team. But I think this style is going to get not even countered. I think it's just going to get beat in some of their upcoming games. I think they're going to get a little bit of a shock.
They kind of remind me of us last year when we first started, like when I first joined Energy and we went to Starletter, made that final, went to ECS, and then we blew the minor. They kind of remind me of us. We were like super aggressive, super fast paced. You know, Europeans weren't used to like people just peeking you in a post plan, like catching you off guard and stuff like that. So they remind me a lot like us. As long as they can recognize that teams are going to look into them and they can change their style a bit to like not be so risk taking. Maybe they're going to keep doing it until they lose, but if they can recognize that, then I think they could still maintain good results. But if they can't, then I'm not sure.
I think it's absolutely insane that they've gotten top 5 already. Like that happened so quick.
Sure.
That's where I think they're overrated. It's not like I don't even mind them necessarily. Like it's obviously a surprise, but them beating Astralis in a series, them beating North in a series, like even that'll happen once in a while. I'm just amazed that they're already in 5th place from what?
It's because they've been quite active. They have been in like 3 or 4 lands. So, a lot of the other teams, that's the problem, isn't it? The Navis, the MIBRs of the world haven't been to these lands. So, generally the inactivity, the others. Like generally, here's the thing. I'm not hating on anyone who wants to say like there should be an asterisk on the top 5 right now. There probably should be. It's such a weird circuit where not everyone's all at the tournament, so we don't get the normal results to really know how good teams are. And at the moment, you're right in a way, some of the teams in the top 5 is like, wow, they're there quick. But then that's because they were the active teams, unfortunately. Yeah. So they can only beat who's in front of them. But I agree. They obviously, it's not the same as if you were ranked number 5, like it's 8 months ago. Yeah, that would be really hard.
It's just crazy to see because, I mean, the only events where they've really faced like the crazy tier 1 talent has been DreamHack Masters Dallas and ECS season 7 finals. And yeah, they made it to the finals at ECS, but I mean, it's been like 2 weeks of tier 1 events and they're a number 5 team. I mean, it was Dallas and then straight into London, which is crazy. Before that, it was DreamHack Open in Rio. Before that, they were losing to fucking Cloud9 at the Katowice main qualifier, which is, it's Cloud9 in 2019. Like that shouldn't, I just don't see where how they get to 5. But either way, I think they're a fun team to watch. Obviously, insanely talented. You can't fuck with the results, but I think like this is still just like 2 weeks of results against tier 1's opponents. So I'm hesitant to get super hyped up. And I think a lot of people have kind of started overrating them from just these 2 weeks, essentially. Like I need to see this be going on for 6 weeks, for a month, like 3-4 events, and we'll see how they keep doing against tier 1 opposition.
Yeah, I've got a couple of factors on this team, like pro and con. Like one of them is both a pro and a con, which is like when I first heard of this team was because everyone was obviously saying that Keserato player was going to go to MIBR. And so I was looking into it like, oh, is he a good player or whatever? And I have to say, I remember watching some of the games and being like, why are people making out like this player's like some godlike player? Like he's all right, but he doesn't, I watched a bunch of the games. He wasn't like fucking blowing my mind or anything. He didn't look like, because people were trying to make it like he's going to be the next KNG or whatever. They were
the next Coldzera. Every time there's a talented Brazilian player, it's always he's going to be the next Coldzera. And I'm like,
which seems unreasonable. There's only one Coldzera. I know, like even playing style, like there's nobody plays that way. So anyway, so I remember thinking that's a bit overrated. So the initial sign I thought was a good sign when this Furia team had its results is it was never just one player always at the top of the scoreboard. It was actually pretty evenly distributed. I even went and looked at the stats. But for how good some of their placings are, a lot of their stats are very, very average. Like they don't look like the players have massive like frag production. And you go and look, they are winning a lot of close games. So like the pro and the con there is on the one hand, that probably means that your style is effective if you don't need like loads of players with big frags to win. On the other hand, though, that does mean if people do counter this style, the team's just dead immediately. Like you'll go back to being like the 15th best team in the world. It won't be relevant. Because I actually look at this team. I don't think there's that many like really good players in this team. Like I'm impressed that they've been able to get these results and that like I think another pro I would put on their side is they're also a team that's been winning on Nuke and Overpass. And if you had to pick 2 maps to win on right now to get upsets, those are pretty good maps to be good on. Still not that many teams really like them that much. So that'll give you a shot. But the problem is like a lot of these factors are like I don't think much has to go wrong the other way and these results just don't happen, basically. Like it's not like, they blew people out the water, smashed them, like they were so sick on this map. Like there's a lot of like touch and go factors for me with a team like that. So I'm kind of not all in on them either. I feel like people are just, and there's the other storyline.
Well, they're exciting to watch, which I think
of course.
Yeah.
And I also think the other factor, which you shouldn't really consider when you're looking at how good a team is people obviously want to use them as a way to bash MIBR and be like, why aren't you guys good anymore? Why, which is like, that's just a narrative, guys. That shouldn't apply to whether Furia is good or not. Like, just judge Furia based on who Furia is, not based on who MIBR isn't, and the fact that they don't win tournaments. That's a bit unreasonable.
I think the real test for Furia is going to come in like probably after the major, or, maybe it happens quicker than I think. Maybe it happens, right before the major, but once they get like hit in the mouth, once people like kind of stop, because essentially what it looks like for me for Furia is they've established one style of play that is successful, but it is the one that is going to get stopped. And I mean, much like Chet was just saying, even NRG and all these teams, you have to look at a way. You can't just play like the straight balls out, always fighting. You need to find a slower way. You need to find a tactical approach to things and find those solutions. And I think Furia is very, very good. I just think at the moment they're a one-trick pony. And when that one trick gets solved, then we'll see if they can respond and actually develop, a deeper level of gameplay that can actually make them stay in the top 10 in a consistent basis, or, earn that top 5 placement.
Sure.
In a way.
By the way, since we were talking about them, why not talk about MIBR? Because I have to say, I've reached the point with MIBR that I reached with them last year, not that far after this point in time, which is like, I just have no faith whatsoever in this squad anymore. Like, I've seen them play enough tournaments now. I hoped it was just like a post-major problem, those first 2 events. Obviously, they were really, really busy at the time, so you could argue, can maybe build the case of like, well, if you're not good and things are going badly, you don't have any time to fix anything. But we've now seen them have time off. We've seen them come back to the events, and it doesn't look any better. Like, I look across the board, and I can't really have faith. Like, what maps are they really good at? What player aside from Cold Zero is going to play well in a game, a given game? At the moment, it's just like you put your hand in a hat and pick a name out and hope it's the right player. Because like I can't build any reasons right now that MIBR becomes a top team again with this lineup.
I think Yuri is pretty good on their team.
No, that's Furia. Yeah, we're talking about MIBR now.
I don't know. MIBR has some problems. I think Fur's kind of dropped off a bit. I don't know exactly what happened with him, but he's kind of like, he used to be like this unpredictable force, and now you can kind of know what's coming now. I feel like it's not really like
a predictable non-force.
Yeah, predictable non-force is the best thing I would say. It just, there's nothing like exciting. Like they need something exciting. I feel like Furia. They're just like, they've done the same thing for like a long time, and you just like can feel them out really easily, and they're not really getting like the multi kills like they used to. It's kind of really easy to read them, I feel like, right now.
They don't even look like they believe they're a top team. They all look super like low morale. Like that. Like I told, like, the same thing happened last year, if you remember, Moses. Like as soon as Fallen in interviews actually himself started admitting, like, yeah, we've got a lot of problems as a team, and individually I've kind of lost my own identity. That's a massive like warning sign right there. Because someone like Fallen normally, if he thought it was wrong, he would battle the narrative. If people were saying like his team wasn't as good, or they were going to fall off, he'd be the guy sort of like challenging them or making some funny banter. Like that part seems largely to have gone. Like I feel like even the team, I understand why, by the way. There's a logical reason business wise, which is they are trapped in this scenario where they've signed all these contracts, they're getting paid really well. At the moment, there's not really that many options to get other Brazilian players because of big buyouts, and the whole Furia thing of them doing well means that's probably delayed from that team anyway. So I can get why it could feel hopeless, but I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not on the team. It's not my fault.
I feel like they just need to try something different. Their gameplay just feels like always the same, and you kind of know that Coldo is going to be last. Like they always set up for him, and I don't know, just something. They just need to change their style a little bit. I feel like they're just too stuck in their old.
Yeah, well, I mean, even they've mentioned that they need to like bring new ideas and new styles of play in. But I think the problem is like every time you see something positive from MIBR at one event, like they're like one step forward, one step back, and they've just been like treading water like that. It feels like for this whole year. And I agree entirely with Duncan. I had a lot of hope, and I was kind of holding out and saying, they've gone to a lot of events at the start of the year. They had that crazy schedule after the major, and now that they've had time off, nothing's changed and nothing's improved. So I mean, it's easy to kind of pinpoint the individuals, right? Like, I mean, that's an obvious one, and it certainly is an issue with the drop off from Fur. He's even experienced some level of resurgence. He's done better, but still not great. I think Fallen's opping has been missed. I think he's outplayed by a lot of oppers these days, and it doesn't look like he has that confidence and swagger to do his normal style of opping, where he's very mobile, very good in between shots and moving around the map. I haven't really been able to pinpoint it myself, because it seems like even when they do something smart tactically, even when it's apparent that they've done something, you can see what they've added in. You know, the individual effort and the individual style isn't there from the key guys to make the strategy work. So I think they're in a lot of trouble too. And it'll be interesting to see exactly how they approach it, because again, it's another situation where, like the buyouts of the Brazilians, I don't think they can make a change until after the major, even if they wanted to. I don't think there's anywhere for them to go. And I think the tough part too is, like, no matter who you bring in and no matter who leaves, like, this is a team that's been searching from last year. Like, not just obviously the flamey simple exchange for Navi is well documented. We all know it happened. But even before that, they were reaching out to crazy players from other teams. They were reaching out to everyone. So if you're like Tarek and Stewie, who are they ended on, like, you're not their first option. They were like 5th in the pecking order. Like, where, like, this doesn't feel like a team at the moment. And for for the MIBR, who we always talked about them and SK and the Brazilians, because of the way they all had to move here and abandon their families, we talked about them like a family and how well they played together. They don't seem to have that cohesion anymore either. So that project seems to be crumbling a little bit at the moment.
I mean, you could even add in, I think the only reason they brought Taco back is because he outperformed them in Team Liquid, and so they thought, well, fuck, he's another Brazilian player, he would come back. Like, I think that was like the last gasp to be like, maybe he was part of the core identity we had, and if we get him back, it'll bring that back. But it hasn't happened, unfortunately. Like, he still plays the same way he always played. That's fine. In fact, I think that's half the problem in their team is, right, think about it. Everyone except Phelps, who clearly would play differently if he was in a different team, everyone else in that team, in theory, plays the way they want to, because it's the way they've always played and had success. Like, Fur and Cold Zera are such opposite ends of the spectrum and clearly want to play that way. Fallen should, in theory, be the AWPer and the in-game lead, of course, and then Taco is going to do his job. So the problem with that is, you don't really have a lot of options. There's not many pieces you can move around there. Like, I agree, Chet, I would try something, like, because at this point in time, as Moses is saying, you're basically stuck with this lineup for the next few events anyway. Why not try something completely different, reinvent the team or something? Because if you just keep doing the same other approach, it's not even like you can blame Phelps for this team, but there's a lot more problems than just Phelps in this squad. Like, the whole squad looks bad.
I feel like the best thing they have in this team is Zeus, because right now he came from Team Liquid. He's been with them for a while, and he should be able to bring that Liquid style to MIBR. I feel like the more explosive style that they're kind of missing. I feel like that's what they should be going for.
Yeah, but you can't play that if everyone individually sucks. I don't think they actually suck. No, I know. I don't think they actually suck, but they're just like, obviously on an individual level. Like, how are you going to be explosive if, like, they don't even seem like they're communicating properly? It seems like there's like these like miscues and everything like that. But like, how are you going to tell players to get aggressive when Fur and Fallen haven't been hitting their shots the way they should, right? Like, if you're going to get aggressive, you better be hitting that shot. And I'm just curious, and maybe it's part of the confidence that they're missing, that they just don't want to get aggressive. They don't have confidence in themselves to be able to go up with an AWP and find a pick. But yeah, they seem very stagnant, and it's pretty scary if you're saying that the best thing they have going for them at the moment is the coach, a guy who's not even in the server. So, I mean, like, again, it does seem kind of like silly, because this is always the conversation with MIBR is like, we'll see. Like, they can't do anything for the moment, especially, by the way, I think these were union lineups that we've seen time and time again. I think they're just a bad idea. I think people have to just stop doing them. I think when MIBR made the decision to bring in Tarek and Stewie and speak English, they should have just kept down that path. They should have just kept down the path of playing and communicating in English. And because then look at they're no longer, if you do that, you're no longer constrained to having to pick up Brazilian players and dealing with these crazy amounts of buyouts and dealing with, Furia, who is playing better than you at the moment. So you can't even lure anyone away. All of a sudden you have the entire English speaking world that you can bring new players into it. And I think switching away from that was actually a big mistake on their part. Although I do understand why they did it in their defense.
Also, I mean, yes, obviously hindsight is 2020, but tell you what, the lineup they had with Tarek and Stewie, as flawed as it was, is better than this lineup. I mean, that's even arguable. Like, it was a lot better.
What's funny thing about that is that the Blast Lisbon event where they brought in Swag, where it was like Swag, Tarek, Stewie, Fallen, and was it Cold Zera?
Cold, yeah.
I would assume so, yeah.
I think that was probably the best I'd seen FIBR look at like the past year. I thought that lineup was kind of cool. And obviously it's never going to work. You can't have Swag in that team for the majors, but I think, that's changing out a lot of players. There's a lot of players from FIBR missing that kind of dictate the way they play. Like you have to play a certain style when you have Fur in the team because he likes to be crazy aggressive and he likes to push up. And I think if you have actually, I just thought it was very, very cool seeing that team and seeing Stewie and Tarek feel like they had the freedom to do different things. Because obviously there's always, every time a new player has come into MIBR, and this isn't like saying that he should be the one removed, but the conflict is always with the way that Fur wants to play, right? Like Phelps coming in likes to be aggressive. So does Fur. Fur's going to win out on that. Stewie and Tarek also enjoy being aggressive at times. So does Fur. So there's a conflict there. So someone's always giving up some way to play. And it always seems to be a conflict with Fur. So there's got to be some way to adapt or change or in some small fashion alter the way that Fur wants to play to make room for other people, because you're going to have to do it at some point. That's always, every time there's a change, that's always where the conflict is. And I don't understand how it's never been Fur to give up that aggression.
Oh, he's the player that should be removed or retire or whatever it might be. That's another option. I mean, to be fair, if I think back, I always used to say, like, because obviously I've had this conversation a fucking million times with people from FaZe Clan where they used to lose to SK all the time and all those games where Fur used to be like one of the key players, obviously, that was fucking them up. I always used to say to them, this is no consolation to you now because he can do this every game. But that style basically shouldn't even fucking work. Like, that style only works if you are insanely skilled and insanely confident simultaneously. Like, if you even drop off like 10% performance, that will just literally, like, you'll just feed if you do that. You'll just be running around the corner dying 10 times in a row, and then your team won't have gotten anything. So I even said, like, it's amazing they can make that style work. So it is naive to think that guy can just do that one approach his whole career. Like, he had a couple of years that were amazing, and yeah, God bless, what a great accomplishment. But he clearly is not the same player at the moment, and he's another player where there's been too many times now, either with the joke publicly or behind the scenes, where it was intimated he might retire. Like, I always say this, if you're not 100% in on being a pro, you have to be an amazing player to still make it work. Because if you're not 100%, like, you're all in, like, this is everything you're going for, you're just waiting for the moment that it goes bad enough that you leave. There's a lot of people have done it as well. If you see in CSGO, a lot of people didn't want to turn down that check voluntarily, so they just wait until the team hits the bottom, like NIP has a bunch of times, and then eventually someone has to, step forward and be like, right, I'll retire, or I'm going to leave, whatever. I feel like we've been waiting a long time in MIBR for that to happen, though.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I mean, it's now been, well, I mean, they've had plenty of time now since they've taken their breaks to at least give us something. So I guess we'll just see at the next event. I guess it is just event to event with these guys, and we'll see what happens. But they certainly, even if we see something good at the next event, and they're going to be in Dallas, or they're going to be in France, aren't they? They're going to be at Pro League finals.
Yeah,
yes, I'm almost certain.
Pretty sure they are.
APL.
Yeah, that'll be the next one. But it does. The problem is too, like, that team, much like they're going to get to the point of for me at least, of where the French teams were, where like eventually you just had to give up, like, forget about the history of all these French teams and French players, and just start assessing them with no expectations. MIBR is basically there, where it's like, even if you see something good, they don't feel like the team that's going to set up any kind of like prolonged, position of being one of the favorites of a tournament, right? They're not going to be a team that for 4 months you go into every tournament, you say, wow, MIBR has a great chance of winning this, like they used to be. Like, they're not like a team that's going to set up some kind of like dynasty or some kind of era or some kind of 2019 is like second half of 2019 for 6 months, MIBR is going to be in top fours. And that's what's most worrying, is that all of a sudden this team with all this history just can't even kind of get it together for even one event, much less, a month even.
I definitely think you mentioned like communication problems, like potential communication problems, and how they play slow all the time and they get picked off for like dies or whatever. I definitely do feel like the way I said is better for them, where they would just play contact set pieces most of the time. Maybe it's not the best style to win like a tournament, but like I think it'll help them get their confidence rolling. Like help them make different runs in tournaments for sure.
That's actually a great point. Like, if they just come into a tournament and say, fuck tactics, let's go balls out, let's show everyone that we still have the skill, and then you at least get something. I mean,
You get
maybe it
more
doesn't
Phelps
work, right?
for a start off, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
maybe they get demolished. Maybe they go out. But at least if you have your players starting to like get some freedom and like get the blood flowing, get some ideas of how to play, and maybe you find some things that work that you can incorporate in to strategy. But it's at the moment it seems like none of their players even want to take fights at any point across the map. It's like they're thinking so much about how they want to play the game and all the theories they went through during time off that they forget that at some point you actually do have to shoot someone in the face in the game.
Sure. Well, that was also another aspect to how they used to win back in the day that was a bit implausible to think you could do forever, which is you aren't going to win every tournament for the next 5 years with like every time you're in a 2vx situation, both players perfectly read what the other team's going to do and then do the correct like that. That looks amazing if it works, yeah, because you're the best team at the time. But like that's another style that's going to drop off like a motherfucker when you lose your ability. So I actually agree. Like the slow style right now probably doesn't work for them. Like they'd be better off with because that's the thing about their team. Unless everyone thinks half the team's shit now, they clearly have skill. They just can't use it. It's not happening in the server. So I would even add in that respect that if you look at players like Phelps, first of all, at a very minimum, if you try playing a more tempo style, you're going to see what they have in the tank. You're going to see if they actually are good players anymore. And if they are, you can maybe do something with that. Because like I always think trying to like control the game is the hardest way to play. I'll give you the analogy. We can just sort from Astralis. Astralis' style, when you're the absolute best team, looks unbeatable because it's like, wow, they're always in control in the mid round. They always know exactly what decision to make, where to pressure, what that pressure will yield on the other side of the map. The problem is if you try doing all that and you aren't in great form and you make bad decisions, it will just be magnified because in a fast hit, there's a lot of chaos. A lot of things go differently that round. When you're trying to like control exactly how you play the round out and like punish any peak from the enemy, it's going to be super obvious if you can't pull that off. You're going to look stupid, even though you actually might be trying to operate on a higher level. I'm sure MIBR thinks they're trying to like reinvent the game and become the best team again. It's just that they haven't even got close to that. Like they haven't got anything functional.
Yeah, I don't know where they build from, even like what the foundation is. So yeah, scary times.
Well, actually, Chet, is it wild for you in that sense? Like, if we think of the era when you were coming up, was when they were basically the best team, when they were just literally like the best team in the world. Like, I would have even picked their core. I even said this when Noah Winston told me he was going to buy the team. Basically, I even said, I mean, ironically, he never got the actual team that was really good by the time they came MVPR. But I even told him, dude, you've killed it. You've got the best core in Counter Strike. Like, this is the team that even if this lineup doesn't win, the next one they make should win. Because they've been so good at like retaining the essence of the team, but then adding the right player in. So it must be wild for you guys. I mean, at the moment, NRG's been above the level of MIBR for a while now.
Yeah, we actually consistently beat them now too, so it's pretty weird. I don't really know what's up with them. Like I said, I feel like we know how they play. Like everyone before used to try to copy their style, and like I think everyone just got really familiar with how they.
Are they still like a really dedicated team? Has that part changed?
Oh, what do you mean by that?
All those first years, they were obviously legendary for, grinding, being like, I even remember famously one thing that one of them told me. I think it was Zeus actually when we had him on this show, Moses, where he told us that genius fucking concept, which is that, because we asked them famously, everyone in NA complains about the scrim culture, but you guys scrim in NA and you're the best team in the world. And what he told us was, that's because when we scrim, we would purposely, like, if we saw, we could take advantage of this team in this way, but on LAN that wouldn't be there, we just wouldn't do it. Like, we wouldn't go and, like, abuse that angle because we would think that's actually bad practice in the long run. So it made them sound like geniuses. Like, they'd figured it out. Like, they were the most efficient team in practice. They were grinding all these hours. You even saw them, they sometimes used to play in ESEA, etc. Are they still a team that keeps all that stuff up, do you think?
We don't really scrim them too much nowadays. The times we do scrim them, I feel like it's kind of one-sided right now when we play them. We kind of just like, I don't know if we're scrimmers or what, but it's just like a little like one-sided for us. So we just like end up just owning them or something, and then I feel like we don't really get much out of the practice and either do. It's kind of hard to tell.
I wanted to shift away from MIBR. Do either of you guys have a problem?
No. Let's do like a final topic then. What do you have?
Well, I wanted to ask about, you guys played G2 at DreamHack Dallas and you lost in a best of 3 series, and you played Vitality at ECS and lost a best of 3 series to them as well. So what are your thoughts on the French teams? Are they back? Was that legit? Was that bad playing from you guys?
I think Vitality is pretty legit. Obviously we should have probably won Overpass if we didn't lose like a 1v4 to Vitality or to Zylu on A site alone. If that didn't happen, probably would have won. But G2, I felt like G2 we just played really bad individually. If you could see like if you just check like the overpass stats, none of us even like hit double digits. We couldn't get anything going. So it was just kind of hard to get the ball rolling in that series. I feel like if we played them again, we would win. But I definitely think Vitality's more respectable,
more polished of the two.
Yeah.
Did you like what you saw, Duncan, out of the French scene?
The G2 lineup, I personally think that was just like an overperformance. Like, I think they're actually, here's the thing, I'll give them credit. If you forget the names, like if you don't look at Kenny S and Shocks and go, fucking hell, should be the one that's, if you do that, if you ignore stuff from before this year and just look at them as a squad, they're all right. Like, I'll give credit. The Amanek looks like a good addition. They do look like they leveled up way, way more in terms of like tactics and stuff. The map pool's half decent. The problem is, I actually just think if you look at their team, it's just not that great a team overall. Like, it's all right. Vitality, I agree, is way more legit. Like, I actually think Vitality, I won't say they fixed everything, but they fixed most of the big problems they had as a team. Like, now they actually look like, again, they're also a team where because the Navis and the MIBRs, etc., weren't at all the tournaments they were at. They haven't had the chance to beat those teams, but I would pick them to, put it that way. Like, I think they really can be like a legit top 3-4 team this year. Especially now they've got those pieces around Zewu. Like, he's fucking amazing.
Yeah, Vitality has really good T sides now. Their T sides are really like layered and like really like complicated, and it's hard to tell what they're gonna do exactly. So you have to like also try to outplay them at the same time.
And their map pool looks really legit as well, I have to say.
Dude, chat. Shocks had a fucking field day on your ass in that series. Holy hell.
Yeah, it was kind of
81 and 38, 96 ADR, plus 40.
Rolling back the years.
That's nasty.
Yeah. It's a bit lucky for us.
I actually, one area I think G2 is pretty cool, and I thought their retakes, that was like the most impressive thing for me at Dallas, was watching them retake bomb sites. I thought they were super, super coordinated, which was cool, but that's only one aspect of the gameplay. I think still there seems like their most impressive wins are still when Shocks and Kenny S play well, and I just haven't been able to rely on that for 2 years, so I'm not going to start doing it now until I see a little bit more. Where the fuck did Alex come from? Who knew Alex for Vitality was going to be an in-game leader? Like, how did that happen? Did he play under like Existence or something and just like secretly absorb all of his knowledge and skills?
He was on the Existence LDLC.
Yeah,
the thing is,
learn something crazy.
Well, I mean, actually, I should probably reach out to him and ask him to do an interview on those topics. I have to say, that's the interesting thing for me, is like, that's what no one could have predicted, that this guy would be, as Chet says, their T-sides look way better now. They actually have very good T-sides on certain maps. So like, the idea that that's the X factor is crazy, because obviously this is a topic, right, where people want to try and like burn me, like, haha, you said Vitality were bad. Yeah, MBK Vitality, the one where he was the in-game leader all the time. I think actually, I don't know if you know how evidence works, but I've been proven correct on that one, because we did this thing called a control group where we tried having him not in-game lead, and they're now one of the best teams in the world. So if in your minds that makes me wrong, then I guess there's no way to fucking win that one, is there? Like,
that is like probably the shittiest thing about this situation is it's such a cool storyline to have, the French Civil War, where like these two legendary players like finally just split apart and they make their own teams, and which one's going to be the better in-game leader, and now they both. And it's neither. I know, and it's like, wait, actually, they both lose. They both actually
does in a way, yeah. No, but in a way, that's why it does make sense. Because every time anyone in the last few months asked me, like, what do you think of G2? What do you think of Vitality? I always said the same thing. Like, one of these teams has got to have an in-game leader sooner or later, like a real in-game leader who's going to do the role for a long time. He gets good at it, and then he fits the particular team. And they didn't have that, but first of all, I'll give massive credit to Alex. And then I even think in G2, I think they said it was Amanek as the in-game leader now. And if it is, he's doing a fucking good job, as far as I can tell.
Is he really?
I believe that was what they said. And the problem with that scenario, I believe, is that they split it up. So it's like, I think it was something like Shocks is the secondary caller and then Amak's the main caller, which might be some fuckery, you know. Who knows what that really means. But they'd implied it was something like that, I believe.
The concept of a secondary caller in CSGO is so fucking dumb.
I mean, usually everyone in the team should be communicating. Pitching ideas, but
for people who don't know this, the secondary caller on teams is such an old concept from the early days in like 1.6 and 1.5. You'll remember this, Duncan, when there was fade to black, because at the old CPLs, the old tournaments, when you died, your screen goes black and you can't.
You weren't allowed to talk.
you weren't allowed to talk. As soon as your screen went black, you couldn't say a word. And if you did, I think like the punishment was like they would take a round away from your team, unless you were European, in which case the admins were.
Then they would warn you that they would take a round away if you did it a second time in a match. You know, one of those things. So it's like, oh, is that our one? Cool, right? We'll just cheat this one time.
Definitely not salty. Definitely not so salty. But that was the secondary caller. If your in-game leader was like the first person to go down, you had to, you know, someone else had to pick up the mantle of being the caller because he couldn't talk anymore. Now, your in-game leader can in-game lead an entire fucking round if he wants to when he's dead. So,
oh, by the way, speaking of which, though, I have to just say, in light of what you just said, I actually made a Reddit comment very similarly saying that you have to realize back in the day in 1.6, in NA especially, when they used to have that scenario, that rule where you weren't allowed to ghost, which is what they even called it ghosting, as you said, even if you're just dead and you're an actual team member and you talk, like that was considered ghosting at those lands. It was really looked down on. That's why I said, I actually do believe that Warden didn't really mean to like cheat when he pointed to that player on the screen in that scenario where like Ricky or something didn't see someone who was on the screen. But it is still fucking hilarious though, because imagine being the coach. I know, stood behind a guy.
It made me laugh so hard.
You just want to turn to him like fucking some like Jim Carrey character of a movie, like he's on your screen. Like I saw, like I can. The problem with it, even though it is cheating, I can totally relate to Warden in that scenario. Like imagine the tiltworthiness.
Dude, there's so many instances where there's something I know and I just can't see anything. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, obviously the worst is if you watch someone else's monitor and you know what's coming and then your guy hasn't spotted it or like on the radar. Yeah, of course.
Sometimes I might not like, have the best sound canceling in my headset on a stage, so I'll be like hear the crowd, or like I'll just hear the crowd be like cheering or something, and I'll be like, this guy's gonna get knifed or something. Like something's gonna happen.
Someone turn around. Everyone turn around. Check your six immediately.
And the person doesn't turn around and they get knifed. I'm like, no, I could have done something maybe.
That clip from Warden is fucking hilarious because it obviously can't happen. But I don't even mind that it did happen because that's fucking hilarious. That is so amazing when you see it on his screen that is dead. He's dead there boosted for like 5 seconds. Like a man can only hold back so much. I don't even blame Warden.
It was probably the most egregious example that you could ever have where the person simultaneously wouldn't see the person on your screen as well. It's like, you know, just human reaction.
It's almost better than when you see people in those camera angles like showing a teammate. Was it like Rush who did it at some point on Cloud9? Like was like showing a teammate how to line up a smoke properly when he had someone ringing or like where to throw his smoke. And I was just, I've seen that like 3 or 4 times now where someone has to get shown how to throw his smoke and how to line up a smoke in a live game. And I'm just like, fucking. We're professional.
Definitely a confidence booster when you're actually at the land. You know, it's not even for the next round. It's, can you do this in the next round? Anyway, I'll trust that'll work. Imagine being the entry fragger then, like, I'll just run out. I'm sure the smoke worked. What's that? It didn't cover the cross? Well, fuck me. You're not even going to know till you're there, are you? That's the worst part.
Until you're already dead. You're like, no, I definitely didn't line up that up properly.
I also love it as well, by the way. My other favourite along those lines is when they would have the comms and they would sometimes let you hear, and someone would be saying that, like, does anyone know that smoke for coils? Like, what are you talking about? We're in the tournament. Like, even if they do, like, we're not just going to run it like half-assed, are we? Like, that's just to eliminate that from your mind. That we were supposed to practice that before we came here. You can't just be telling me, yeah, I think don't you line it up off that pole? Like, what are you doing? This is a pro match.
It's so mental.
I think we can end it there.
Well, let's end with let's do one last thing. I want to pick Chet's brain for one last time. Okay. If you, Chet, as you've been coaching now for quite some time at tournaments both large and small, if you could change 2 things about the coaching role, what would those 2 things be? Whether it's how that they're allowed to interact with players during a tournament, during a live game, whether it's on the back end, whether it's just practice, like what are the 2 biggest things that you would like to see improved from a coach's perspective?
I'd like to have the freeze time for sure, just like how it is in DreamHack. I'd like to be able to talk during that. Okay. And I'd like to get, these are like generous rules that I'm hoping will happen. More realistic. The second one would be once the OT hits, and you get an extra pause per OT that's passed. Because right now, if you use all 4 during regulation, you're kind of fucked for OT. Sure. You can't really help your team at all. Sure. So I think that's something that could be implemented. And I think those are the most realistic. Anything else will probably be a little ridiculous. Like
I think that's not even unreasonable. I mean, I would just make it one of those scenarios like they do in like American football where you have like the 2-minute warning or whatever, you know. And the idea is you game plan around it, you know, like, right, I can use my last challenge now because, you know what you're doing in that scenario. I think that would even make sense. That's a pretty fair one, as long as it's across the board.
I think maybe one timeout per overtime is a bit much, because I think if you start having an overtime where there's 2 pauses every single 6 rounds, that's going to be a bit crazy and that's going to ruin some of the flow. I think it'd be cool to have like an extended halftime between overtimes. Like what if you added like 30 seconds or a minute onto that, so you actually have a chance to talk?
I don't really like that, just because I will kind of want to make sure I can get my say while like the game's live and not like when we're switching sides. Because maybe I'll have an idea on that side. Maybe you could just add 1 pause for the next OTs, like just for all of the next OTs.
Just something.
Yeah, just give me.
Everyone gets one phone a friend where they can just call it a coach for 30. But it's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You have a 30-second counter, and you're like, right, what tactic would you chat? Right, how far are you doing? What are the questions? Because you know, like famously on that timer, it would always be like they'd just be about to say the answer. They'd be like, I think
just
it's,
cut it off,
and then they'd be like, oh, sorry, that's all we had time for. It's like, but he was just about to say it was between.
Please.
There's been some inconsistencies. Like some tournaments, like I'll be able to talk when I call a pause. I'll be able to talk for 30 seconds, and I'll get the freeze time as well. And then some tournaments, I only get the 30 seconds, and then it's over.
Right.
So I'd like to see some consistency there. It's kind of confusing sometimes when you're not sure how much time.
Unified rule set. I think we need one.
Yeah,
I mean, it's about time, right? How have we got this long without one of those? It is weird seeing all the different overtime and freeze time. Like I completely forgot in Dallas that DreamHack let you guys talk during freeze time. I completely slipped my mind when I was.
And then there's like weird timeouts. Like sometimes you have to call the vote in game, but sometimes you have to type .pause. It's like what's up with that? Like just make it have an in game. Yeah. I think universal would be nice. This
video was kindly supported by Dean Tanglis, Butt Pounder 420, Andreas Snazore Westerlund, Wendelful, Chi Mao, JDubs, Alexander Rao, Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer, Daniel Olivar, NateDOhDoubleG, OllieJ, Tobias Bernasconi, and a special thanks go out to Jerky's Minion and weixz. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you'd like to ask me a question in my monthly AMA. Do you want teasers for my upcoming content? See who the guests are. Maybe you'd like to take part in a donator discussion with me on video. Well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today at link in the description box below.